Margot Robbie on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, Marriage, and MeToo Vogue. When Tarantino received Robbie's letter, had recently finished the script for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, a romp through the movie industry of the late 1960s, which opens this month. Friends would read that Tarantino's film is about the end of Hollywood's golden age, but Robbie, who is 28, has come to represent so much of what's new. As an Australian, today we're on the set of Birds of Prey, a spin-off of 2016's that Robbie developed and pitched to Warner Brothers as an R-rated, female-led superhero action film, a commercialized product of New Hollywood if ever there was one. I think there's at $75 million, this is Lucky Chap's largest project to date, but Robbie seems unperturbed. Well, we're on, the day's shoot is at a medieval-style stone abbey in Highland Park. Sorry I am, watch 73 Questions Over Brunch with Margot Robbie. Glamorous movie star isn't really Robbie's vibe. She laughs easily. A lot of actors want to be producers, but Robbie seems to actually think like one. On I, Tanya, Harley Quinn, Suicide Squad's baby-voiced psycho schoolgirl on roller skates, is not exactly a mascot for the emancipation of women in Hollywood. But when we drop by, yeah, it's definitely less male gaze, Robbie says. Benock tells me that Robbie has an uncanny ability to focus on what's happening in the moment, and when she needs to shift, she can so perfectly shift. She turns to Robbie. God, I hope so, Robbie says. Or else this move, Birds is just one of some 50 projects on Lucky Chap's current slate. There's also the company has just moved its offices to an industrial complex near downtown LA. Inside there is this kitchen has been dubbed a Nancy Meyers kitchen, Ackerley tells me. Oh, it is so a Nancy Meyers kitchen, Robbie says. Ackerley makes us coffee on the new espresso machine that Robbie hasn't mastered yet and retreats to his office ca. Press isn't Ackerley. The story of how Robbie and Ackerley got together is also the story of Lucky Chap. It all began in It's nice working with your spouse, Robbie says. We can talk about, if Robbie likes a full house, it's because she grew up in Onwas, the second youngest of four on Australia's Gold Coast, a beachy, surfy region along the country's western edge. It's kind of like when they moved to Los Angeles, Robbie and Ackerley settled on their own, though currently they have Robbie's older brother living with them, as well as her cousin and her cousin's husband. It's a common theme. I don't ask her about children. It was Robbie. Speaking of cults, we are now en route to Musso Frank's, significant not just for its status as a Hollywood landmark but also as a pivotal setting in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The film follows Robbie's Tate, like her Tonya Harding, is less imitation than an interpretation. Whereas Tate we're outside the restaurant now, and the air smells of grilled steak, which Robbie inhales like a scented candle. I am such a Early last year, Thurman told the New York Times that she, too, had been assaulted by Weinstein, and that her relationship with Tarantino had suffered as a result. She held Weinstein. Tarantino has never been accused of sexual misconduct or harassment. He called the car. I don't know, she continues. I don't know how to. Robbie is answering this question because I asked, and it shouldn't really fall to actresses to right the wrongs of Hollywood. The fact is, it's difficult to parse out all the layers here. Tarantino's it is not 9:00 p.m. yet, but Robbie has to rush home to watch dailies from several Lucky Chap projects currently in production. The next morning, Margot Robbie's beauty routine is psychotically perfect. Part of CN Fashion Beauty. Copyright 2019 Aiken Nast. All rights reserved.
Raindrop, drop top smoking, no cooking the hot pot. Fucking on your bitch, yeah, that. Looking up, open the park pot.